Pokemon laning tier list. Hello guys, how are you doing today? I'm gonna have a special guest on today's video, PHFaust, another Pokemon Unite YouTuber. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing great, I'm doing awesome. We just finished recording my videos. I can't wait to get on this tier list.
Awesome, and definitely go check out the collaboration video we did on Faust's channel after you watch this one. So without further ado, let's talk about how these Pokemon do perform in the laning phase in Pokemon Unite on the remote stadium. So let us begin. First we have Absol. To me, Absol has been always a jungle Pokemon. In lane, he feels very nifty. I would never want to see, honestly, Absol in lane, so I would definitely put him on the C tier. What do you think?
I've been watching a lot of Chris Heroes lately, and he has convinced me that Absol is actually pretty good in lane.
Okay.
Especially when you're fighting against the pre-evolution of most Pokemon. So I actually would say that it's in A. But if you think Absol is gonna be in C, maybe you can settle on B.
Yeah, let's compromise on B. I think it's a fair point. I mean, it could find its niche usages, and especially those early levels, he could excel. But absolutely, I think B is well justified here. Let's go with that. Okay, so next we have Alolan Ninetales. I do like its laning phase. I mean, she gets its potential semi-early on. Like, I mean, you've evolved into Ninetales at level 4. So there is some good things going on with it. I don't think it's a top tier necessarily, but somewhere in the A or B tier I think is justified.
Yeah, I think it's also... It fits in A tier because out of all of the range attackers, Alolan Ninetales is one of the better Pokemon in laning.
Yeah.
A lot better than someone like Gardevoir or Cinderace, definitely.
Let's go with the A tier. I think it's very well suited there. Next we have Blissey. Blissey's very good with, especially with certain Pokemon like Venusaur. I've been doing really good results. If you have that right Pokemon to support to, and Blissey as a Pokemon is designed to be around with someone. If he's alone, it's gonna be a bad time. So definitely I would put this on with someone on the lane. So with that said, still I don't think it's necessarily a top tier, but somewhere in the high mid A tier.
Yeah, similar, because I think Blissey also is able to support really well, heal Pokemon in your lane. So I think Blissey is a really good support and does belong in A.
Let's put it behind A9, that's a fine compromise. Next we have Charizard. Charizard to me is like, he feels super weak when you're Charmander or Charmeleon in lane. It's so iffy, like, it's one of those Pokemon I would just love to see getting that XP advantage from jungle. So I'm not a huge fan of Charizard in the lane. I would actually put him on maybe low B tier or maybe C tier. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Charizard, Charmander, Charmeleon are really gonna have a hard time in lane if they're not given the proper XP, the proper farm that they need. So yes. Not that good in lane, but I'm not sure if I want to put Charizard in C.
Okay.
I think maybe low B for me.
Let's go with low B tier. I guess Absol is slightly better, so let's compromise on here. Same with Cinderace. Cinderace, it's so iffy on the lane. I've been playing, my most played Pokemon is Cinderace. Let's get this straight. And 98% of the time, I play Cinderace in the jungle. Because he just is better. The way the abilities work is just better. It's very difficult to last hit on those contesting Pokemon in the lane, like those Audinos and stuff. It just feels very iffy and lackluster in a way. I wouldn't... It's, again, it can work in lane, but it's just... I'm not a huge fan. Definitely a B tier.
Yeah, I think... I'm so sorry, I don't mean to offend you if I say I think Cinderace is absolutely horrible in lane. I want to say that Cinderace, if you want to put in low B, alright, but I think Cinderace is a C tier in lane because definitely I think has a harder time compared to Charmander, who might be able to last hit Pokemon much easier with something like the Fire Blast or the Flamethrower that you have.
You do have a point.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, you do have a point, and it's fine. I'm not offended. Cinderace is horrible in lane. So with that said, like, And the last hitting is actually better with Pokemon like Charizard, or trying to contest for those last hits. So with that said, let's go with the C tier. I mean, I love Cinderace, but this Pokemon belongs in the jungle, period. Okay.
Yeah.
Next we have Cremerant. Cremerant's early game, the last hitting potential, the AoE damage, the crowd control provided if you go Surf Hurricane. This is a great package, even despite the fact he got nerfs a couple patches ago, or somewhat. But the laning phase itself, for Cremerant, I think it's still very, very solid. Not necessarily S tier due to the nerfs, but somewhere in the A tier, I would say, will be solid for Cram.
You know, I'll believe you in that because I haven't really played Cremerant, but the fact that Cremerant has so much utility, I feel like Cremerant sometimes feels like a all-arounder because you have CC on top of your damage. I think Cremerant is actually a really good Pokemon, but I've never played Cremerant, so I'll believe you in if you want to put Cremerant in A.
Yeah, it still does have a solid laning phase, so definitely A is, in my honest opinion, well justified here. Next we have... I don't know, I always feel iffy about Crustle, because this game is about Pokemon Unite, and the way he excels in his play is by playing solo. In the lane, he's fine. He does get its utilization with level 4 and there onwards, because he does evolve. But I'm just not a biggest... It's so mid of the road for me, so somewhere in the B tier, all around, I would say Crustle.
If you want to put Crustle in B, I think Crustle should be in high B or low A, because Crustle is obviously not as good as before because of the nerfs with being able to get health from scoring. Crustle really is a really good Pokemon for stealing scores because you can score as much as you can before, but now you can't really do something like that. But Crustle is still a really good Pokemon in abusing score shield, so I think especially in the early game it's really hard to stop this Pokemon from just scoring over and over and over again.
Absolutely, you do have a point. You do have a point, and I actually do agree now that you mentioned it. Where would you put it on the A tier? I'll let you choose.
On the A tier, I think I would put it above Blissey because I think you can abuse Crustle a lot more than you could abuse Blissey.
Okay, that's a fair point, and yeah, with that reasoning, I think it's a fair point to put it on. Let's go with that. Next we have Eldergas. Eldergas always been a good support, especially when we still do have, at the time of making this video, we still do have the 1-1-3 meta being more or less relevant. In the bottom lane on those 3-man lanes, Eldergas is just the support to pick up, like super solid, and I think there's no question, I would absolutely put LD in the S tier. It's just insanely good laning. If you do get behind and you get stuck as Gossifleur, it's gonna be a bad time. But if you do reach that far and you get that small, even that small consistency going on, it's gonna be a great laning partner to have. Absolutely S tier in my opinion.
Again, I will believe you on that because I know Eldergas is a really good Pokemon. I've seen a lot of games with Eldergas really overperforming. I haven't really played Eldergas, that's why I'll believe you're ready for to put Eldergas in S, but I just want to say, I think, yes, in 1-1-3, Eldergas will really overperform, but if it's a 2-1-2, or if you're like solo queue gaming with Eldergas, if you don't have a good partner Pokemon, you're gonna have a harder time.
That's true. That's
true.
I
think Eldergas is good. I'm not sure where. I'll believe you if you want to put Eldergas in S or A.
That's a tough one. Now that you mentioned the duo lanes, I want to find some kind of sweet spot. Let's put it on low S tier for now and see how the list evolves as we speak.
Yeah.
And speaking of the next one, I don't want to see Garchomp in lane. I think it's just one of those Pokemon that you have to put in the center, because you will get the utilization so late in the laning phase, like around level 5-6-ish. It's just no. I think it's even worse than Cinderace. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think honestly I would rather see Cinderace in lane than Gible, because you're not gonna be able to do anything in lane if your opponent just knows how to fight with a Gible, which isn't really that hard.
Yeah, absolutely low C tier. I'm sorry, Garchomp. I like you as a Pokemon, but you kind of suck in lane.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, Gardevoir. It's something akin to Garchomp, but with an exception that you're ranged. So you do have more room for play, in my opinion. And the fact that you evolve into Kirlia now at level 5 instead of 6, it does help out. But the first 4 levels is gonna be very, very rough nonetheless. You just have to reach that level 5 ASAP. But judging from that, and the fact the first 4 levels are tough, I would put Gardevoir in A tier, somewhere in the B tier. Maybe like high B tier or between those two. What do you think?
Oh, that's interesting, because I was gonna say Gardevoir is better than Cinderace, definitely.
Yeah,
but
it
you
is.
still have a really bad time in lane if you're not having a good time with your lane partner.
Yes.
So I actually want to say Gardevoir, especially if you're still Ralts. I think Kirlia, it's more manageable, but if you're Ralts, it's easy for you to get behind, but better than Cinderace. So I was gonna put Gardevoir in B.
So you want to put it on
Do you
B?
think low A or high B? I think high B.
I think the B tier is more justified given the fact how terrible the first 4 levels are. And if you do get behind, if you do get stuck at Ralts, it's gonna be a bad time for you. So with that said, I would say put it on the high B tier. Is more or less justified. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Next we have another Pokemon that sucks in the lane. I just think it's very akin to the Gardevoir situation. If you do get stuck as Ghastly, especially, like it's very iffy. Like, yeah, you can try last hit with Will-O-Wisp, and the licks, the crowd control is a fat okay, but I just rather see Gengar in the jungle. And with that said, C tier.
Yeah, I think I can actually go. I don't mind having Gengar in low B, because at least Gengar does output a lot of burst damage. It's just so easy to kill a Ghastly or a Hunter, especially if you're not having a good time in lane.
Do you think it's better or worse than Charizard?
I would say maybe worse than Charizard.
Okay, that's
so
a fair
high C or
compromise.
low B?
Yeah, let's put it there.
Low B?
Yeah,
Alright.
Let's go with that. That's a fine compromise. Next we have Greninja, another Pokemon that does excel in the jungle in my honest opinion. But there is some more room for play in the lane compared to someone like Cinderace. But I would never see Greninja still in the A tier of laning. Somewhere in the B again, I would say, is justified.
Yeah, I see Greninja being in B. I'm not sure if high A. If you have a really good Greninja can do really well. But I think, yeah, I can go with B. I don't mind.
Do you think it's better or worse than Gardevoir?
I think Greninja has a easier time compared to Gardevoir. I think.
Let's go with high B.
What do you say?
Yeah, that's a fine compromise. You can screw up, but you can also do decent. Lucario. Okay. Lucario's been probably the most consistent Pokemon in the world of S tier. Despite the nerfs he's been getting in the last patch to his power-up punch, just super solid all the way. Like, still one of the greatest. Like, I think there's no question. Just, even despite the nerfs, I think he's still very top-tier contender. S tier for sure.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I think Lucario's an S tier. Definitely.
Yeah. Insanely good. Yeah.
Insanely good. It's just I think some people don't think Greninja belongs in S, sometimes even A, because they've seen lots of people underperform as Lucario. Sorry, but yeah, I think it's mostly because Lucario is just not that easy to pick up. So you see lots of people who aren't really that good with Lucario having problems in lane.
Yeah, absolutely consistent throughout the whole game, and as a laner, still a very, very insane contender. S tier for sure. Then we have Machamp. It's another one of those Pokemon that just feels very iffy to me to play in lane. I do like its presence more in the center position. The last hitting is iffy, because you have to go semi-close to try a last hit, and once you do evolve into Machoke, it does get easier, but other than that, the first early levels are just very, very tricky-dicky, nonetheless. Low B tier, C tier, in my opinion.
I would say, yeah, I could see B or C. Definitely better than Garchomp. I think the built-in full heal that you have at level 2, you always go bulk up as your second ability instead of the first one. So the built-in full heal is so much better than something like Garchomp that doesn't really have a lot in the early lane. So I don't mind C or B actually. Either
do you think it's better or worse than Gengar?
I think Gengar might have a better time than
yeah. I think so too. Let's put in our low beats here. Poor Machamp. We need to see some buffs on this Pokemon for sure. He's been so underwhelming for such a long time. Unlike our next lane contestant, Mr. Mime, still very consistent. With the abilities provided, she can clear out those camps, especially the packs of B. You can just AoE smack them up, and it's just very good laning phase. And if there's a good Mime player, he can very zone out well with the usage of the wall and just get that space going, and very consistent throughout. High A tier or low S tier, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Mr. Mime has really good last hitting with the clap and good not really crowd I guess crowd control with the walls that you can put up. You can really control your lane if you're a good Mr. Mime. So Mr. Mime, I think, is really high tier with laning.
Let's go low S tier. I think that's a fine compromise. I mean, it's super solid throughout the way. Super good. As well as Pikachu, especially now that he got the buffs. Pikachu's been always a good laner, but now with the buffs given, it's even more crazy. Another S tier, no doubt. I just think Pikachu's insanely good laner and to play with against. Like, it's super good throughout the game. Now with the buffs given.
Yeah, definitely. One of the better attackers in laning is Pikachu because you have a lot of burst and you have a CC just like Cremerant, but I think Pikachu deals more damage than Cremerant, especially in the early, even in the early parts of the game. So yeah, Pikachu I think is high tier.
Do you think it's good next to Lucario? This is a fine compromise to you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pikachu's just super strong, like so good value all over the place. Insane laner at this point in time. Next we have Slowbro. Slowbro is a fine mediocre laner. I think Slowbro is kind of underrated in a sense, but still I don't think he's S tier per se. Somewhere in the A tier, given to his abilities and the pressure he can give out in the lane, is somewhere I would compromise and go with this.
Now, if you want to put Slowbro in A tier, I think Slowbro is low A because Slowbro is, I think, a decent Pokemon, but not really that good of a laner compared to everyone else in A tier, I would say.
Low A tier is a fine compromise. With your reasoning, it's a fine place to put it. I definitely agree. What do you think about Snorlax though? I think it's been on or off. It's like a sleeper hit, no pun intended. Sometimes he'd been like a S tier sort of, and with some changes he dropped to A and stuff. What do you think?
I think, if we're talking about the lane, especially laning phase early on the game, Snorlax has to be in S tier. If we're not thinking about the overall game, or we're just talking about laning, Snorlax, no doubt, in my mind, is S tier because if you're up against a Snorlax, it feels like it's almost impossible for you to last hit anything.
That's true.
Snorlax gets it so easy.
That's true. That's a good point, and it is specifically meant for laning, the tier list. Where would you put Snorlax in the tier list? In the S tier?
Actually would put Snorlax beside Lucario. Between Lucario and Pikachu?
Somewhere here?
Yeah, because with the tankiness that you have and the attack, you kind of actually do sort of deal a lot of attack compared to a lot of Pokemon early on in the game.
Yeah, that's I think that's a fine compromise. Let's go with high S tier because it's about laning after all. Yeah. Next we have Talonflame, and I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of Lane Flame. I think Talonflame belongs to jungle and it gets that max utilization from the jungle. I'm not a huge fan. You can do fine, I guess, with him in the lane, but I don't want to see Talonflame in lane. I think it's B, low B-ish.
Oh, you actually want to say low B? I actually wanted to put Talonflame in C because I don't want to see Talonflame in lane. I think the only way that Talonflame can do well in lane is if your opponents are just having a really bad day.
Yeah. Would you be fine with high seeds here? Do you think it's better than Cinderace? Or do you just think it's gobsmack and put it on the absolutely worst?
I think for me, Cinderace might be better.
Let's put it between these two. It's a fine? It's fine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I don't see Talonflame being better than... I don't see anyone, spoilers alert, being better than Garchomp in lane.
Okay. That's a good way to reason in it. Moving on, we got Venusaur. Venusaur, definitely a good laning. He has so much range potential and the ability to steal last hits, and the whole DPS as a whole, the early levels are very consistent for Venusaur. I definitely like to lane with this Pokemon because it's just so good all in all, and definitely one of the better Pokemon in the shore. I'm kinda iffing between low S tier and high A tier though, but still very consistent. Maybe low S tier, what do you think?
I'm actually leaning towards high A tier. If we're comparing Venusaur to the Pokemon in S tier, I think Venusaur, yes, you're correct, is a good Pokemon in lane, but I don't think Venusaur compares to the laning of the Pokemon that we have on S tier.
Okay.
So I'd put Venusaur in high A.
Let's put it on high A tier. I've had a success with this guy on the lane, so at least this will be a fine compromise.
Yeah.
Wigglytuff is also really, really good. Like you can just put up so much pressure when you just use the Sing and zone out people, and insanely annoying to play against. The passive is super annoying and just a very, very tough contender to lane with. Either high A tier or low S tier.
Same. I get that. I think Wigglytuff is a really annoying Pokemon to fight with in laning, so I think I would put Wigglytuff in high A.
Let's put it on high tier, high A. Do you think it's better or worse than Venu?
I'm gonna leave it to you because honestly, I don't know.
I'm really iffing between low S and high A. Tough cookie. Because Wiggly is super annoying. Due to its annoyance and due to the fact how good the passive is, let's put it on low S tier. I mean, she's super good, like super annoying. Okay. Next we have Zera Aura. I've seen some people laning with this Pokemon, but it's just another one of those that I'd just rather see in the jungle. It's somewhat underwhelming to say the least. And with that said, you can do laning decent with this. So somewhere in the B tier, I would say, is fair judgment.
Yeah, I would put Zera Aura in B tier because Zera Aura is not the best laning Pokemon, but Zera Aura is decent in lane, so I wouldn't prefer, but I don't mind seeing Zera Aura in lane.
Where would you want to put it in the B tier?
I'm really thinking about whether or not I want to put Zera Aura in front of Greninja or not. What do you think about Zera Aura versus Greninja? Who do you think is better?
I think Greninja is better, because you can secure the last hits better. Let's put it between Gardevoir and Greninja. I think that's a okay compromise. I just think Greninja is somewhat more consistent. So, you fine with this?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. We got Blastoise next. I do like Squirtle and Wartorn's laning and the capabilities they can do. They're not necessarily top notch, but somewhere in the low mid A tier. I think it still has its last hitting potential, and the crowd control provided from the abilities given, it's not definitely the worst. I think it's pretty fair actually.
Yeah, I think Blastoise would fit in A better than... It's a better water defender, better than Slowbro, because you have Skull Bash and Water Gun, which are, I think, way better first abilities that Slowbro gets. So Blastoise, I think, yeah, would fit in mid A.
Better or worse than Crustle?
I think better than Crustle.
Yeah, I think it's a tad better. Let's go with that. Next we have Mamoswine, and it's one of those Pokemon that also got buffed. That you get those abilities a bit earlier, and you do evolve into Mamoswine earlier. And the laning has gotten a bit better thanks to that. I'll give the benefit of the doubt. And if it's a good Mamoswine player, you can actually line up those abilities correctly, and it's kind of actually annoying to be fair with you. So with that said, I would actually put it at least minimum of low A tier.
Yes, as a Mamoswine main, or I used to be a Mamoswine main.
Oh.
I think I love Mamoswine still up until now. If we're talking about laning phase, so I want to say Swinub Mamoswine is actually really good in lane. I think the problem with Mamoswine is in the late game, but since we're talking about laning, but your ice attack is a really strong move in lane. You can get last hits with it if time it properly, and freezing your opponents makes it so that you can secure kills a lot better with Swinub. So I think Swinub is Mamoswine's laning definitely for me is really good. Your ice, your tackle, it's easy for you to secure kills if you're laning, especially if you have at least a decent lane partner.
Yeah, let's put it somewhere in the A tier. I'll let you choose. Where would you want to put it?
I would put it, if not about laning, I think Swinub is better with early in the game with laning compared to Squirtle.
I think this is a fine settlement. Let's go with this. Mamoswine is more tanky, and it's within the right hands. It's super annoying to play against. So I think it's fine. Fine compromise. Next we have Sylveon. Sylveon is also really good once you do evolve into level 4. You usually take Hyper Beam when you lane with this Pokemon, and it's just very consistent damage throughout. And if you do get that snowball going on early, it's really, really strong. And the fact you get the Unite move at level 8 is also a plus. Even though that's towards the late of the end section of the laning phase. But you usually do reach that 8, and it's a very consistent, it's a very solid laner. Again, high A tier or low S tier, I would say, is reasonable.
I would say Sylveon's laning is actually pretty terrifying, especially if once Sylveon gets Hyper Beam, or just once Eevee evolves into Sylveon gets very scary to fight against. So yeah, I think Sylveon is a good laning Pokemon.
Do you think it's better or worse than Wigglytuff?
I would say Wigglytuff might be better, especially because Wigglytuff is just way more annoying compared to Sylveon.
Yeah, let's go with this settlement. I think this is a fine compromise, so that's fine. We got 4 more left. Next we have the infamous Squirrel Greeden. He used to be so good when he first came up, but after the nerfs, I'm not a huge fan of Greeden as a whole. I don't know. I'll leave this up to you. Do you have experience with Greeden?
Not recently. I remember when I played Greedent before. Yeah, Greedent was so good, so annoying. But recently, I think Greedent isn't really that bad of Pokemon with all the nerfs. I think Greedent is still pretty good, especially if you're having you have to deal with last. I think Greedent is gonna be annoying, and I mean most of the time, Greedent is just gonna farm for goals. So I think Greedent is, after all of the nerfs, it's not too bad. It's still pretty good. I think I would put Greedent in like somewhere like low A.
I think it's a tad better than Greninja. Let's go with low A tier. I can settle there. Okay. Next we have Decidueye. The issue with Decidueye is that I think the early levels are horrible for this Pokemon. You need to get into Decidueye and actually get those abilities going before you can get the utilization out of this Pokemon. The laning phase is just pain for this Pokemon. I'd rather see this in the center and get the utilization out of that way. But as a laner, I'm not a huge fan. It feels very iffy to play. I would say next to Cinderace, high C tier.
Yeah, I think Decidueye is C. Not sure if I want to put Decidueye before or after Cinderace. I just want to put Decidueye in C.
Let's put it on high C tier. It's very iffy. Unlike the next one, we have Tsareena. Man, Tsareena is just super, super strong. Like, oh. insanely powerful Pokemon, and it doesn't matter where you put Serena, Serena's gonna shine. Insanely strong altogether. Somewhere in the S tier, I would say maybe next to Pikachu. Either way is sufficient.
I think Serena, yeah, Serena's not too bad, but I think actually the time where Serena gets very dangerous is when Serena becomes a Serena. The pre-evolution, you don't really have, you have not too good of a time with the pre-evolution, so I actually would put, I'm sorry about, we have like very conflicting thoughts on this. In early phase, I think Serena is B.
Let us compromise on the A tier, because you're actually correct. The early levels are kind of iffy. So he's not like consistent throughout the whole laning phase. So somewhere in the, but once you do level up to Serena, it's gonna be scary. So with that said, maybe somewhere next to Crustle or Blissey.
I think better than Blissey.
Yeah, let's compromise here. I think that's fine. Last but definitely not least, we have Dragonite. I think Dragonite does excel in the jungle, but you can still lane fine with this Pokemon. And once you do evolve into Dragonite, which is later on the laning phase, almost ending that laning phase. With that said, he's not the god of laning, but maybe high B tier or low A tier is somewhere sufficient still for this Pokemon. What do you think?
Yeah, actually I would say Dragonite has better laning than Serena. I mean, for me, that's for me. I think Dragonite's better laning because when you get to Dragonair, you get Dragon Dance, you have a better output of damage, and you get your resets pretty often. So I think Dragonair is still a better laner, or Dragonite will be a better laner than Serena, in my opinion.
Where would you put it? I'll let you put the last one in the list.
I would put, if we're talking about laning phase, I'd put Dragonite, and since Serena is an A, I'll put Dragonite before Serena, in between Crustle and Serena.
Okay, that's a fine compromise, and Dragonite does excel in the jungle, but he's still a solid laner nonetheless. So, that's going to conclude the Pokemon laning tier list. What do you guys think about? Let me know down in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree with our choices? And thank you so much, PHFaust, for joining up with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, I really want to know what everyone thinks about this list, because everyone has different opinions on what Pokemon are good. We have seen laning tier lists where people have put someone like Lucario very low. So it'd be interesting to see what you guys think about the tier list that we made today.
Awesome, awesome. And definitely go check out the video we did on Faust's channel. I have the links in the video description below. And if you enjoyed the video, a thumbs up will be appreciated. And consider to subscribe on me on Faust's channel as well. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Peace. Okay, I think that's fine.